What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my transfer tips for Game Week 16. So I'm going to go through a bunch of players that are being brought into people's squads or being taken out and give my opinion on whether they are good moves or not. So let's get into it. So there's only one place to start, and that's with the top scoring midfielder in FPL so far this season. Is it Declan Rice? No. Is it Bruno Guimaraes? Of course not. It is Bruno Fernandes. After his 18-pointer last night, he currently sits on 85 points, and no midfielder has more than that. Please, just for today, let me have this one. No negativity. I don't need to hear that Declan Rice is better value. Bruno Fernandes, 4 midfielders at 9 million, has the most points in FPL. You know what? He might just be an okay pick. After all these seasons, please just let me have this one. But we need to talk about him seriously as well. Is he worth bringing in? Yes, in my opinion. You're coming up to a period where there's lots of game weeks in quick succession over Christmas. You want players that you can guarantee are going to play 90 minutes. Now, obviously, there has to be some nuance there as well. You don't want to buy bad players just because they're going to play 90. But Bruno Fernandes is not a bad player. You look at the fixtures coming up, 19 to 21 is definitely better than 16 to 18. But over the next 6 game weeks, 3 of them are at home. 1 of them is Wolves. Bournemouth at home this week is not that bad. And then the 2 away games are Leeds away and Burnley away. So the fixture run reads Bournemouth at home, Villa away, Newcastle at home, Wolves at home, Leeds away, Burnley away. It's a pretty good fixture run for a player you know will play every minute of every game. He's on penalties, as we saw last night. And he finally scored another one, by the way. That's 2 goals, 2 misses so far this season. And his underlying numbers are still pretty good. Like for the season so far, according to the stats on Fantasy Football Hub, he's up at 0.22 expected goals per 90, 0.24 expected assists. Now, they are not elite numbers by any means. There'll be players out there with better numbers than that, but not many of them play 90 minutes week in, week out and are on penalties and have defensive contribution potential as well. And I know people laugh about defensive contributions for 9 million, but it's just an added bonus with Bruno. And I think this is one of those players where actually the stats are probably better than the eye test, because every time he blanks, which by the way, he has not done much for weeks now, you hear all the central defensive midfielder, centre-back stuff, ignoring the fact that he gets in the box, he's still creating chances. He's just a good pick. You don't have to go out and get him. He's not essential. But over Christmas, I just don't see how you don't have him in your team. He's the best Man United midfielder. They've got good fixtures. He's going to play every game. I do think Man United might be in a little bit of trouble once Mbeumo and Ahmad go to African Cup of Nations, which will start in Game Week 17. So not ideal going to Villa away, then Newcastle at home. But as we saw last night, Wolves at home is such a good fixture. I think they'll be fine. And then it's Leeds away, Burnley away. So I would not sell him. I would buy him if you can afford it and you've got the spare transfer, which most of you will have. And I'll also go as far to say this. If you've got a decision between Foden and Bruno, I would buy Bruno first. It's not that Foden is bad. I really want him in my team, and that will happen soon. But I do think Fernandes is a better pick overall. So let's talk about another Man United midfielder, Bryan Mbeumo, who did pick up yet another yellow card last night, but was also back on the score sheet. So I'd say owners are pretty happy overall. In terms of bringing him in, you could do it for a 1-week punt against Bournemouth at home, but just bear in mind it's a definite transfer back out in Game Week 17 because of African Cup of Nations. So it's probably better to focus your transfers elsewhere. If you've got him and you're thinking of selling, if it's to Foden, and maybe you've already done it to catch price rises because you really want him from 17 onwards, etc., that's perfectly reasonable, right? I think Mbeumo to Foden's a pretty good move. But if you've already used a transfer or two and you're not stuck for moves and you've got nothing else to do, it's absolutely okay to keep him for Bournemouth at home. And by the way, I would have said that even if he hadn't scored last night. Let's not forget, it wasn't that many weeks ago that Mbeumo was seen as essential. The stats he's putting up from open play are still really good. 0.34 expected goals per 90, 0.21 expected assists. Worth saying, last night from the right side, Ahmad was taking corners, so he has lost a few set pieces, but he's still a good option. Bournemouth at home is not a terrible fixture. It's more than reasonable to keep him for one more week before you sell him, and because of the 5 free transfers, that is going to be a theme over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be lots of players that are okay to keep and okay to sell, and that's basically Mbeumo. So if you're moving to Foden, absolutely fine. If you've got 5 free transfers and nothing else to do, then Mbeumo to Fernandes ready for 17 onwards when Mbeumo goes to AFCON is also fine. but it's absolutely okay to keep him. He's still a good pick for Bournemouth at home. Then you can get rid of him 17 onwards. So speaking of midfielders that are okay to hold, but also okay to sell, and maybe even in this case, okay to buy soon, Antoine Semenyo at Bournemouth, down to 7.6 million. His overall ownership is still quite high at 45.9%, but he's the second most sold midfielder this week. And I bet if you checked Engage Managers FPL teams, his ownership's probably a lot lower than 45.9%. The fixture run coming up, it'd probably be better if more of the games were at home, but next three, Man United away, Burnley at home, Brentford away. It's not terrible, especially for a player that will play 90 minutes pretty much every game. And look, early on in the season, he overperformed and he wasn't able to keep that up. And the returns recently have been awful. But I do think he's been a bit unlucky in recent games not to get something. And now he's a bit lower owned. You could maybe even argue about jumping back on him for a 1 week punt against Burnley at home. So if you're again, I have to keep mentioning this name because he's so popular right now. If you're moving Semenyo to Foden, obviously that's absolutely fine. And I can't believe there's now a 1 million price difference between the two. Foden went up again last night to 8.6 million. It's kind of crazy. Those kind of moves are obviously fine. But if you're looking at him thinking, well, I've already used like 2 or 3 transfers, I don't want to blow another one. Man United defence is not that good. It really isn't. And as much as I'm kind of feeling good about Man United right now, Fernandes is a pick, Cunha's in my team, etc., we have to remind ourselves they played Wolves. And Wolves were not very good, and they still managed to score against United. So Man United away is not terrible, and Burnley at home is great. The only fixture better than Burnley at home is probably Wolves at home. So if you want to keep him, that's absolutely fine. If you want to take a few punts on a midfielder over the next couple of weeks, bring in Semenyo in for Burnley at home, then taking him back out again, either for game week 18 or 19, is absolutely fine. So it's just another one of those situations where there are multiple options because of the amount of transfers we have and because some teams will be better set up than others. You might be in a position where you can take some short-term punts. Other people might not be. Long-term, I don't particularly think he's great because you've got Chelsea away in 19 and Arsenal at home in 20. But he will play every game over Christmas and he'll play 90 minutes in pretty much all of them as well. So he's never going to be a terrible option. So I don't have him. And I've got no intention to buy him this week, I don't think. But game week 17, depending on what I end up doing with Foden, he may well come in as a 1 week punt and then I might move him on in 18 or 19. So I hate to say it, okay to hold, okay to sell, and arguably even okay to buy soon, especially now his ownership's a lot lower and he's only 7.6. If you jumped off him early and you banked those price rises, and now you can buy them even cheaper. It's quite nice. Let's talk about Ekitike next. When I set up these graphics yesterday, my intention was pretty much just to say, yes, he scored 2 goals against Leeds. Yes, he deserves more minutes in a Liverpool shirt because he's done well whenever he's played this season. But you can't pick him for FPL because Isak is just too much competition. And in some ways, I still think that's the case. But since I made these graphics, we found out that Gakpo's out for a few weeks. And obviously, Salah is not really favoured right now. He's been left out of the Champions League squad. It seems almost certain that Salah will not play in game week 16 before he goes to AFCON. So all of a sudden, there's no Salah. And look, even if Salah plays for 16, he's not going to play 17 onwards because of AFCON. Gakpo's out for a few weeks. They're running out of attackers that they can play. Chiesa never gets a look in. It might actually be that Ekitike and Isak have to start playing together over the next few weeks. You've got a home game against Brighton, which is not terrible. Spurs away is not terrible either. Then Wolves at home, Leeds at home, 18-19, pretty good. So you could maybe consider Ekitike at 8.4 million. My main problem with buying him is even with those injuries and even with Salah being away, I still don't necessarily think that the minutes are fully secure. Like, he's not going to play close to 90 most games, I would argue. He's not on penalties either. Like, Salah's obviously going away. Someone else has to take penalties. But you'd imagine that McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Isak are all ahead of Ekitike. And you look at his minutes. In fact, if I just go back to the graphics there, like, it's 75 minutes per start. Like, even when Isak wasn't an option at the start of the season, Ekitike was getting subbed early. Now, he did play 83 against Leeds. Maybe that's a sign of things to come. I just don't know about him. And my other worry is, if he becomes a non-option, let's say you bring him in and you got to get rid of him, it's like, which other forward you go to? I moved to Guiu structure quite a while ago to play 3-5-2 or 4-4-2 most weeks, and I've never really looked back. Like, I've got Haaland and Thiago, and that feels okay. if Thiago goes and gets injured or I need to move him on, then I'm happy to move him to someone else. But if I had 3 forwards like Haaland, Ekitike and Thiago and something happens with Ekitike, the amount of options to move to just feels a lot lower than having that money in midfield. Now, Raul Jimenez looks fine right now, and I'll talk about him in a second, but how long will that last? Minteh, everyone's selling right now. He might be okay 17, 18 onwards, but the options up front, they just don't seem as exciting as in midfield, and maybe even defence soon as well, by the way, but also the value's not really there. You're paying 8.4 million for a player that won't get defcons, isn't on penalties, the minutes aren't 100% secure. It just doesn't feel like a great use of money. And I think that's the problem with most forwards. Like, I bet most people, I can't tell you right now who the top 5-6 scoring forwards are. Let me just have a look here. Let me go to total. I mean, I know Haaland's at the top, right? Obviously. So Thiago's second, 80 points. Then it's Jarrod Bowen. Now, look, maybe Jarrod Bowen over Christmas is not a bad option. Fulham at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away, Forest at home. So you could go Ekitike, but you're not going to move Ekitike on in 18 or 19 because you've got Wolves at home, Leeds at home. You'd have to keep him for those games if you've held him that long. And again, Bowen's not bad because he'll play 90 minutes every game, but he's not on penalties. Very unlikely to get you defcons. João Pedro, I just wouldn't go back there. People are selling Minteh. Then you've got Richarlison. I mean, like, no one's going to buy Richarlison. Welbeck's just got benched midweek. Probably happens again over Christmas. Woltemade is not on penalties. Visser is now around as well. I just think forwards are a bit rubbish overall. And obviously, everyone can play the game a bit different. If you want to play 3-4-3, it's absolutely fine. But to me, the value is all in defenders and midfield. Like I said, I'm on a Haaland, Thiago, Guiu structure, and I've just not regretted that one bit so far. And I just don't think that's going to change over Christmas. I would much rather go and pump more money in defence for centre-backs that can get me defcons, have goal threat, that are going to play every single game, than go for Ekitike. And I know that's so boring to hear, I get that, but that's just how I feel about the situation. So I think he's basically what I would say, long story short here, keep an eye on what happens in the Champions League game for Liverpool midweek. How do they set up with no Gakpo, no Salah? Does that look good for Ekitike moving forward? And if you want to take the punt on him at 8.4, absolutely fine. I just don't think there's a lot of value there unless you can absolutely guarantee the minutes. So let's talk about 2 Fulham attackers that are pretty popular this week. Harry Wilson, a midfielder at 5.2 million, and Raul Jimenez, a forward at 6.2 million. The next 3 fixtures are quite nice. 2 of them are away, but they're against Burnley and West Ham. So it's Burnley away in 16, Forest at home in 17, then West Ham away in 18. They look quite nice in my opinion. After that, it gets a bit trickier. Palace away in 19, Liverpool at home in 20, and Chelsea at home in 21. Yes, I know Liverpool looks like a great fixture right now, etc., etc. I get it. But it wouldn't be a massive shock, in my opinion, if all of a sudden in a few weeks Liverpool looked a little bit tougher than it does right now. Things can change quickly. They've got a lot of quality players in that side. And if Konate can stop making mistakes, they might be a bit better defensively. So I would say 9. Like, for all you might think Liverpool's a great fixture, Palace away, Liverpool home, Chelsea home, it's not a fixture on that you would target. So I would say they're short-term picks. With Raul Jimenez, he's absolutely nailed right now. He has to be because they got no Muniz. So he might get some early subs when the games come quickly in and around Christmas, but he's going to start every game, in my opinion, and he's on penalties. So for 6.2 million, I quite like him. If the choice is Jimenez or Thiago, I would definitely buy Thiago. But Raul Jimenez is a nice alternative. He's quite nice if you want a bench boost soon. So if you're bench boosting in 16, 17, 18, is a great option because you don't want a Guiu or a Krupi Jr. or someone like that. So I quite like Jimenez. And by the way, if you got to 19, 20, 21 and you had to play him or you had to keep him, it wouldn't be the end of the world because you know he's nailed and he's on penalties as well. So even if you have a tough or a bad game, all it takes someone to go down. Raul Jimenez gets points from nowhere. Happy days. So I quite like Jimenez, but I don't prefer him to Thiago. With Harry Wilson, his minutes are looking quite good at the moment. Whether that will still be the case long term, I'm not 100% sure. Like, he's the kind of player I don't think you can ever be fully confident will start every single game and will always play 80 to 90 minutes. Early subs are a possibility, and obviously the starts might be in question at times. But I do think with how they're setting up at the moment, he should be fine. So if you need to bring in a cheap midfielder right now to play this week, I do prefer Harry Wilson over someone like Dewsbury-Hall. But if it's a long-term pick and you don't necessarily need them the next week or two, I would definitely buy Dewsbury-Hall instead. Because with him, I think you can have full confidence in the minutes. And game week 18 onwards, the fixtures are just pretty good for quite a while. Like with I'm not saying you necessarily want to play him every week. I've got him in my team. I may not play him every single game week, but from 18 to probably 26, I mean, maybe even the Man United game in 27, he's already scored against them once. Like, you could play him in every single one of these games and be confident he's going to start every single one as long as he's fit as well. He's on some set pieces, often plays number 10, and that should be the position he mostly plays moving forward. But as he showed at the weekend, even if he's playing like a slightly deeper role, he gets forward. It's a bit like Bruno Fernandes in that regard. So long term, he is the pick, and he's 0.1 million cheaper. I just don't think over a long period of time you can be confident that Wilson will keep starting. Also, the guy scores absolute worldies. Like, it feels like all the time, but actually his underlying numbers are not that amazing. Like 0.17 expected goals per 90, 0.09 expected assists. I wouldn't expect him to be like a consistent point scorer necessarily. So I like Jimenez because I know what he offers. The goal threat's a bit better. He's on penalties. He's absolutely nailed right now. I can't say all those things about Wilson. So short-term pick again. If you want a bench boost with a cheap midfielder over the next couple of weeks, looks great. But 18 onwards, I definitely think Dewsbury-Hall is better. Let's talk about Yankuba Minteh next, a player who's currently in my team. And I've had a few questions over the last couple of days, basically saying there was a lot of hype about him recently as a cheap value pick. Why does it now feel like everyone's looking to sell him? Let's be clear, points affects everyone. But I don't personally believe we should be making decisions based on who has or hasn't scored points. It's more about stats, fixtures, performances, etc. But it does affect us, right? It's much easier to convince ourselves to buy a player when they've scored lots of points recently. Likewise, when you bring a player in for 2 home games, one being West Ham, and he blanks in both of them, and then you're looking at Liverpool away, Arsenal away in the next 3 game weeks, it becomes a bit easier to justify selling them, right? So it shouldn't be like that, but that is the case. But also, and I keep coming back to this, it's like broken record alert. I wish I could say something else, but it's just the situation at the moment. We have 5 free transfers. And that allows you to take shorter term punts. And as much as, I've already said this, as much as Liverpool away doesn't look that bad, it's not amazing. And neither is Arsenal away in game week 18. So if I've got a transfer to get rid of him for those games, then maybe come back to him, that feels okay. I also think as well, in terms of my team at least, it's a bit of a case of lacking midfield space. But I can't sell Saka this week before Wolves at home unless he gets injured in the Champions League. Like, that looks like a great captaincy option. Fernandes, great pick. Dewsbury-Hall, great from 18 and a value pick as well. And money still matters. So he's more, as much as I think Minteh is a good value player, Dewsbury-Hall's even better. And then Cunha, I don't know if I want to let him go because he's a massive differential. I thought he played really well last night, albeit it was against Wolves. His link-up play was good. He deserved a goal, honestly. He got like 1.15 XGI or something like that. He had like 8 shots. So I all of a sudden now, because of his performance and because of the fixtures Man United have got, where they don't have to play Liverpool or Arsenal away in the next 6 game weeks, I kind of want to keep him. So if I want to make a midfield change, arguably it's Minteh that can go. Like, even if I don't get Foden this week, I've got 5 free transfers. I could sell Minteh for a 1-week punt to like Dangu Utara or something like that, and then come back to getting Foden in 17. So I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent about why I might sell him. Like, ultimately, if I was sat here with 1 free transfer and we hadn't just been given 5, I'd probably just roll, play him against Liverpool, knowing that he's got Sunderland at home in 17. But that's not the situation right now. So it feels okay to take him out if I've got the moves to do it. If I had a whole bunch of other issues to handle, like let's say I had 2 or 3 flagged players, I'd probably deal with them, roll 2 transfers and keep Minteh. But that's not the case. So once again, it's okay to hold him. It's okay to sell him. Basically, you can frame the fixtures depending on how you want to create the narrative, basically. If you want to sell him, look at those fixtures and say it's Liverpool and Arsenal away, 2 of the next 3. If you want to hold on to him, just say it's Sunderland at home, West Ham away, Burnley at home in the next 5, which sounds a lot better. It's up to you. The underlying numbers are okay. The minutes are good. He hasn't been benched yet. Yes, he got subbed early in the last game, but I suspect that's because of the amount of minutes he's played. I would expect him to keep starting moving forward, including over Christmas. He is still a good value pick at 6.3 million. And if you don't need to sell him, you shouldn't. Obviously, don't buy him. Like, it's Liverpool away, Arsenal away next 3. But he's perfectly reasonable to keep hold of. That being said, I may sell him this week, and I think that's also okay. Let's move on to Eze at Arsenal next. So he was benched in game week 14 against Brentford. He did start against Villa, but was subbed at half-time. As I mentioned previously, now Odegaard is back, his minutes are a problem. Eze is not guaranteed to start anymore, and he's not guaranteed to play 80 to 90 minutes even when he does. Because Odegaard has got that central position as well that he can play in. And on the left, Trossard's done really well. They've got Martinelli, etc. So it's not a guarantee that Eze will play there either. So long term, he has to go. I don't think he's a good pick whatsoever. There's too many other good midfield picks. Whether you sell him before Wolves at home is obviously a lot trickier because that is a great fixture. I would assess it based on what happens in the Champions League. If it's a fact that Eze doesn't start, then I think you keep him for Wolves and then you maybe look to sell him afterwards. If he does start, then it makes the Wolves game a lot trickier to call. And then we might just have to assess it based off minutes. So let's say Eze gets 80 to 90 in the Champions League and Odegaard doesn't start. Maybe then you can even convince yourself to sell Eze before he plays Wolves, which wouldn't be fun, but it might be the situation you're in. It might be that Eze starts and plays 60 or something in the Champions League, then it's a lot harder to call. I think it's perfectly okay to want to keep him for Wolves, no matter what happens in the Champions League, and that's fine. And again, maybe I'll come back to this on Friday once I've seen those games. But after that, I think he's got to go. There is no guarantee of minutes. Arsenal have too many good players that they can use. They don't need to run players into the ground. It's the same conversation with Saka, by the way. Now, the difference with Saka and Eze, Saka's absolutely first choice. No doubts about that whatsoever. Of course, Madueke can start games on the right wing, but Saka is clearly first choice. It's not the case of Eze. Like, if you asked Arteta, everyone's fully fit, what's your first choice 11? I don't think you can guarantee Eze's in that team, which sounds crazy because he's such a good player, but that is just the amount of depth that Arsenal have. It could quite easily just be Odegaard, who he prefers, with Rice and Zubimendi behind him, and then Trossard on the left, or something like that. So I would hate selling him before Wolves, so if you want to just keep him and then move him on afterwards, that's fine. But maybe try and make an assessment after you've seen the Champions League game. So I kind of touched on this earlier when I spoke about Harry Wilson, but let's just quickly talk about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall because a lot of people are bringing him in this week. He's up to 5.1 million now. Basically, there is no reason to go out of your way to get him before Chelsea away, Arsenal at home. Like, if you've got him and you've got a good squad, I suspect you're going to be benching him for those two games. It's not terrible if you have to play him, of course, but they're not easy fixtures. So therefore, there's no rush to get him. The real time to pick up Everton players would be game week 18. If, however, you're making multiple transfers to shift money around and you want to downgrade a midfielder to someone cheap who's a great long-term pick to also give you money for another move, then as I've said, I prefer Dewsbury-Hall to Harry Wilson. I would only go for Wilson if you need someone for the next 2 weeks, basically. Otherwise, Dewsbury-Hall 18 onwards is just a really nice pick. It's worth saying, by the way, he has overperformed. Like, he's not going to keep up this level of consistency, but he plays every game. The minutes are great. He's often playing number 10. He gets forward. He's on some set pieces as well. He's not awful for defensive contributions, although I wouldn't expect him to get them that often. He's just an all-round great player for that price who can be a long-term hold. So don't rush in for Chelsea away unless you need an enabler. Come back in game week 18. But for some of your moves, it might be worth getting him right now. So no defender has more transfers in this week than Matty Cash. He's now 4.8 million, scored against Arsenal. That's his third goal of the season and got an assist the week before that as well. Is he a good pick to be bringing in? I don't think so, not really. Like, his attacking numbers are okay. 0.04 expected goals per 90, 0.1 expected assists. Certainly not terrible, but that doesn't scream goal scorer like someone like Munoz. He's definitely overperformed so far. Not to say that he can't keep getting goals and assists, but I wouldn't expect them all that regularly moving forward. He is nailed on, which is nice, but then you've got to think about clean sheets. So that's the bread and butter for a defender. I don't really see too many on Villa's next 4 fixtures. Like, West Ham away is not bad, but it is away rather than at home. So you'd be a bit more confident if that was West Ham at home. Then it's Man United at home in 17. Now, this is where I think you've got to separate what matters for FPL versus what might happen in terms of who's going to win or lose a football match. So rightly so, Villa will go into that game against Man United at home as favourites, but that doesn't mean they'll keep a clean sheet. And I would expect Man United to score. Then you've got Chelsea away, Arsenal away. So I mean, maybe 1 clean sheet in the next 4. Is that enough? Does he have enough attacking output to not worry about the clean sheets? Not in my opinion. He doesn't have DEFCON potential either. So Like, he's okay. He's nailed on for 4.8 million, should continue to start, but the fixtures are just not there. I'd much rather, and I know this is boring, but this is the game we're playing this season, go and buy a nailed centre-back with better fixtures who can get you defensive contributions, honestly, than buying Matty Cash. So people maybe think he's been overlooked recently, fair enough. And there are some, like, look, he's only let me just provide a counter argument for a second why you might want to buy him. He's only 4.8 million, so that is benchable. It's a benchable price. So if you played him against West Ham away, Man United at home, then benched him for Chelsea away, Arsenal away, then played him against Forest at home, that's fine. Maybe a defender like that fits into your structure, but I think people are buying him because of the amount of attacking returns so far, and I just don't think it's all that sustainable. And look, I say that quite a lot, and sometimes players just keep smashing it, but sometimes they don't. Like, Semenyo overperformed at the start, and he went off the boil. Like, it can happen both ways, and I just don't think Matty Cash is interesting enough to risk it, although he is less than 5 million. So I think it's okay if you want to buy him, but I have no intention to buy him anytime soon. I almost need to start using that Simpsons meme with Bart Simpson in the classroom where it's like, say the line. Nick Woltemade, probably okay to hold if you want to, probably okay to sell as well. Like, Newcastle obviously had Burnley at home in game week 15, which was nice. But now it's Sunderland away, Chelsea at home, Man United away. Not a terrible run, but not as good as what they've got coming up after that. So if you want to use a transfer to get rid of Woltemade, maybe restructure to put that funds into midfield, maybe to go Woltemade to Jimenez to free up some money, whatever it is, I think that's perfectly fine. And also, Visser is available now. It's going to take some time for him to build up to 100% match fitness, but he's not going to AFCON. And we know how good he can be in the Premier League based on last season especially. So he will get minutes over Christmas. So Woltemade, next 3, not ideal. Minutes might dip a little bit soon. And we know from watching like Champions League games and stuff with Eddie Howe this season, he is managing players more than normal. And he's not on penalties ahead of Gordon either. So he's okay to keep. But again, bringing him in, no chance right now. It's just the wrong time to do it. I think you have to come back to it in game week 19. So if you've got him in your team and you're looking at the forward saying, I don't really want any and I don't want to restructure, absolutely by all means keep hold of him. But I don't think he's a particularly great pick over the next three weeks. And if Visser does build up enough fitness quickly, over Christmas there is potential benching for Woltemade as well. So I absolutely would not buy him. If you've enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Plenty of players discussed in this video. I'm sure there's some I've missed. So I'll be doing the game week preview tomorrow, covering your questions, free hit drafts, and all that good stuff. So please do give the video a like, hit that subscribe button, go and buy Bruno Fernandes, and I'll catch you tomorrow.